Chapter 11, Movement and Transportation Aspects of Reception, Staging, and Onward Movement, RSOM. Background, the NATO deployments have shown that the force disclosures directly impact the ability of the commander. Implementation of the concept and operation of the reception, staging, onward movement is crucial to the success of the force closure, and the NATO authorities with the collective responsibility for the reception, staging, and onward movement of the NATO's multiple national operation nations have ensured individually by cooperative arrangement and provisional logistic resource of the reception, staging, and onward movement to support the air force of the reception, staging, and onward movement operations are effectively availability of the host nation, which has the ultimate authority to approve, coordinate with the control movement of the sovereign territory back in the mutual arrangements between the nations, which can provide with the critical host nation support and to facilitate the reception, staging, and the onward movement. The definition of reception, staging, and onward movement in the phase of the deployment process of transition of units, personnel, equipment, and material of the arrival ports from the debarment and the final destination. The purpose of the chapter is to establish doctrinal framework with the fundamental principle of the mode and transportation aspects of the reception, staging, and onward movement based on the MC 336-2. The chapter will assist the NATO national movement and transportation staff accomplishing reception, staging, and onward movement, and the tasks combined with the joint environmental with the guidelines, planning, and execution, requirement, judgment, and application, and having to be always mission tailored. 1104 scope. The information provided with this chapter is applicable to the full spectrum of the potential NATO operation, both Article 5 and Non-5 of the Article of the Crisis Response Operation, as well the exercise with the coordinate with the cooperation of the United Nations, the European Union, and the operations. It is all applicable to non-national nations participating in NATO-led operations. The exercise of the reception, staging, and onward movement encompassing the movement of the transportation as well as the support force projection as force found in the final destination as a geographical location of joint operational areas, which the strategic deployment, including the reception, staging, onward movement ends, where the national and the lead nation movement is responsible to terminate the subsequent operational tactical movements conducted under the NATO commander's responsibility and start. Section 2, Movement of the Transportation, Reception, Staging, Onward Movement Principles. Among the movement of the transportation principles outlined in the MC Military Committee with the 3362, the 5 arcing the movement and transportation principles that be considered during the deployment and accession of the reception, staging, and onward movement. These principles are described in below. The host nation authority, the ultimate authority to provide with the coordinate with control all of the movement of the reception, staging, and onward movement, the related activities of sovereign transportation territory. The host nation will take the NATO commander's priorities into due account. No capable host nation exists. The lead nation should take the responsibility of the host nation on the reception, staging, and onward movement. Related activities in absence of the host nation and lead nation, the NATO executive authority, and if agreed with by the sending nation, will assume these responsibility. Coordination. 1107. Coordination. The Joint Force Commander will bears ultimately responsibility timely execution operational plan. Therefore, needs the visibility deployment of the national force of the joint operation area. Once the sending nation is identified with the closing of the reception, staging, and onward movement, the coordinate between the sending nation and host nation appropriate for the NATO commanders be conducted with accordance with the established doctrines, procedures, and arrangements should be properly adapted. The menu arrangements deployed in order to ensure that the needs of the joint force commander and the special sending nation, host nation, and lead nation are met. Is an operative of the host nation or lead nation executive authority implement all the reception, standing of the operation, standing reception, staging, onward movement aspects within the physical functional area with the responsibility to avoid the host nation or lead nation executive authority should have the coordinated authority over all the elements executing the function. 1108, integration of the planning of the process. The paramount of the operational planning process of the integrates the reception, staging, and onward movement is the movement of the transportation function. The earliest option to the reception, staging, and operation will have the impact on flow of the forces. It should be considered with the strategic estimates to ensure the feasibility with the operational planning of the reception, staging, and onward movement. It should be considered with the site surveys conducted by the Joint Force Commander. 1109, synchronizations. The objective of synchronization is to link the deployment, personnel, equipment, and materials in a timely manner, optimizing the availability of the facility, well-synchronized flow of the enhancement build-up, initial capabilities, avoid saturation at noise, and along with the lines of communication, thereby increasing the survivability. Synchronization required detailed joint planning, timely, predictable airflow, sea flow with the visibility, NATO, nation, and all deployments, and the ability to adjustment movement schedules. Optimum logistic footprint will determine the logistic structure of the reported wire, but the support of the reception, staging, onward movement. The size of the logistic footprint should be tailored to the size of the deploying forces. Whistle some of the redundancy will be required, but the goal is to avoid duplication of the effort, deploying the minimum assets necessary to optimize thorough put the units of material reception staging and onward movement related to the assets must be deployed with the properly timed sequence to maximize their capabilities. Logistic footprint may be reduced to minimum, maximize the use of the host nation support with the third-party logistics service support and to the availability appropriate. Conversely, with the Joint Force Commander may choose to increase the logistic footprint with the reduced vulnerability overall. The force and crews the joint reception staging onward movement capability, clearing the backlog of the ports of the staging areas in one of the means of the reduce the force of vulnerability. Section 3, the planning of the process. The operational planning of the process. The Allied Joint Publication 4 series of documentation describe the general logistic planning process, the place of the operational planning process. The Chapter 3 documentation focuses on imperative deployment of the movement and transportation training as consistent with the part of the deployment phase, but not limited to the movement and transportation function of the reception, staging, and onward movement that may be embraced for the operational planning of the process as a whole. Furthermore, ongoing requirements of reception, staging, and onward movement during the subsequential operational phase during sustainment must be taken into consideration. 11-12, the deployment process. The movement and transportation must be an integral force of the operational planning with the restaging and the standing, reception, staging, and onward movement. The movement and transportation requirements need to identify early with the deployment planning process and ensure the appropriate functional elements for the forcing, executing the reception, staging, and onward movement, including with the state of the requirement, so as the report of the theoretical and enabled packaging this facilitated with the Allied movement control or in a century chaired with the movement and planning of the conference, which will include the movement and transportation planning of the reception, staging, onward movement. It must be understood that the cross-functional responsibility of the reception, staging, onward movement depends on the attention of all the operational logistic planning function and the reception, staging, and onward movement. The planning of the extra capability linked with the planning activity of the Senior Civil Emergency Planning Committee through its transportation of planning board and committees can be support with the planning of the process. The visibility available using civil air transportation resource infrastructure can assist feasibility assessment multiple national deployment as requested. The aspects and impact of the reception, staging, and onward movement. The main aspect of the impact of the reception, staging, and onward movement are listed below, needed reflected in the statement of requirement for the operational plan, the host nation support concept requirement, the host nation arrangement, the movement of transportation, reception, the onward movement of the land logistics lines of communication, operation, movement of the control, transportation area, movement of transportation to movement of transportation, C2 arrangement, staging, force protection, air defense, security, communication, maintenance, supply, billeting, feeding and fueling, recovery, repair, medical services, and engineering. 11-14 for the phase of the reception stage of the movement, the strategic phase. The reception stage of the movement, the planning is based on the conception and concept of the operation following the strategic aspect considered with the reception stage of the onward movement. Identify the allied area of responsibility. Boundaries with the joint operations area defined with the final destination, identified with the host nation capabilities, identify the point of the department and the location of line of communication with the state of the requirement, provides sufficient specialist units to execute the reception, staging, and onward movement tasks. The operational phase, during the phase of the joint force commander of the host nation, lead nation, sending nations start to detail the reception, staging, and onward movement planning. They have to ensure the necessary infrastructure, operational procedures available to allow the reception, staging, and onward movement to take place in the respect of the joint hosting nation supporting steering the committee that should be established in accordance with the Allied Joint Publication 4-5A. Coordinating the necessary will be effective with the between Joint Force Commander and the special sending nation, host nation, additional operation aspects of reception, staging, onward movement planning, including the inter-allied, the host nation of the third party LSS, main deployment routes, main supply routes, the staging, marshal, holding assembly area, part of the department, limitation, reception, Restrictions define the reception, staging, onward movement, the movement of transportation, storage, structure, and organization. The overall reception, staging of or operational plan, staging of onward movement should be plan should be in annex to the Joint Force Command operational plan. Movement of the transportation element, the reception, staging, onward movement to have the cover of all movements related with the issues, beginning with the unloading of the department and until the arrival of the force at the final destination. Section 4, Authority General. The NATO will establish the structure of the reception, staging operations, operation, and theater organization. The Joint Force Commander will coordinate with the operation of the reception, storage, stage of operation, on movement plan of the joint operation. This is executed with the reception, staging, onward movement, an element, the movement and transportation close with the coordinate with the relevant agents. The reception, staging, and onward movement element will be located directly with the Joint Force Commander, where the location should ensure that the easy coordination with the communications, and it must be appropriately staffed and trained and equipped with the coordinate with the reception, staging, and onward movement of the operations as required. Task and responsibility. Task responsibility of the host nation or lead nation, sending a nation are defined in Chapter 2 of this document. The reception, staging, and onward movement is responsible for developing the reception, staging, onward movement for the Joint Force Commander in the junction of the host nation, lead nation, executive authority, the nation coordinate with the reception, staging, onward movement, the aspects of overall deployment, sustainment, redeployment, system deployment, planning process, synchronization, national plan of the Joint Force Commander, assisting development of the host nation support arrangement, maintain visual and air, rail, sea, road movements, establishing liaison, host nation, lead nation, executive authority, sending nation as required, preparing report. Section 5, process the general. The aim of the section briefly specify the main activities must be performed during the reception, staging, and onward movement. The phase of the movement of the transportation, logistics, operational functions, detailed reception, staging, onward movement procedures established by Operation Command of the leading standard authorization procedures. Reception. Reception is the process of the receiving, offloading of the marshalling personnel, equipment, and material arriving at the home base of the point of embarkment. The reception functions include the inter LA following: force protection, perception of the reception of forces, offloading personnel, equipment, material arriving, transportation assets, means of the transportation, marshalling, cargo, cleaning, errands for the point of debarkment, movement and control, and of arriving personnel, equipment, material, joint of operation, visibility on over arranging the department personnel, equipment, the material, logistics, support, and communication, staging the process, assembly, the holding, organizing, arriving personnel, equipment, and materials into the units in formation, preparation of the onward movement. The staging functions include inter-ally force and protection, communication, reporting, logistics support, LSI support, supporting nation training requirements as necessary. The onward movement. The onward movement is the process of moving units accompanying the material from the reception facilities, marshalling on the SA and final destinations on onward movements, functions, inter-ally filing, force protection, movement, logistics support, coordinated all transportation modes, communication, reporting. Annex A. We're on Annex A. All right, Allied Movement Deployment System, ATOMS.